Welcome everyone to the Formula E Season 10 season review, because I've been with Formula E all of this season from Mexico to London and it's been incredible. It came down to the last few laps in London. Oh my goodness, so if you're a new Formula E fan, you're curious, or if you're a hardcore Formula E fan, hopefully you're going to find this video really interesting. It's just going to be pure Formula E. There's not a lot of it on YouTube. Here with Sam, who's someone who's interested in Formula E but doesn't necessarily know a lot about it, but has followed some of the races this season and will know some of the drivers. So let's go all the way back to January, because we've got all these cards on the table you might want to see from all the drivers and VIP passes, and got a lot of stories to tell you, a lot of behind the scenes as well. We go back to January, Formula E start the season, before the Formula 1 season, by the way, which I think is a really good thing, because people are sort of like ready for some racing, and the Formula 1 hype cycle hasn't started and Formula E goes there. Went to Mexico, and we don't have his card here, but it was Pascal Wehrlein for Tag Heuer Porsche Motorsport who wins.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to spoil it because the season review, Pascal Wehrlein is now the Formula E World Champion. And I remember asking you at the time, because we did a podcast back then, what do you think about Pascal Wehrlein? I think, and I'll let you come in, but I think he said he's highly rated, and I'd just like to elaborate on that. Now he's won the Formula E World Championship. Where do you think his stock is?
I mean, like you said, at the start of the season, on our kind of like driver rundown thing, I thought Pascal was the highest qualified driver in Formula E. He was always fast. He always really impressed me in Formula 1 and stuff like that. But in Formula E, he seems to like come into his own. From what I've seen, which granted, as Kireth has said, hasn't been a lot of it, from what I have seen, though, he's always thereabouts, and it does seem to really suit him. Yeah,
I think two things for Pascal Wehrlein. One is he's not doing another program this season, so he's not doing a WEC program.
A lot of drivers.
A lot of drivers are doing it. So they do WEC and they do Formula E, and that's had a bit of an issue actually. Where there's a clash in Berlin, and there'll be a clash again next season. So he's been focused. I spoke with him in Italy. And he was like, yeah, I've decided to be focused. But he does also want to drive the hypercars as well.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, I mean, well, especially if you're a Porsche Motorsport factory driver and they've got the 963, is very competitive in the hypercar. But he is someone that is accustomed to driving in tight spaces. He was the youngest ever pole sitter in DTM. And he was the youngest ever race winner in DTM, in German touring cars. And German touring cars is very, very, very aggressive driving, and you need to have your elbows out. And Pascal Wehrlein, you might have seen, I don't know, but in Portland, the penultimate round, he lost his front wing.
Yes.
And he just carried on.
Yes, I did see it.
And he came fourth. And I think many drivers, now Formula E, we know that it's not downforce critical. So losing the front wing is not the end of the world. Yeah. Although Portland is, I think, it's a purpose-built circuit, so downforce is arguably more important there. But the fact he was able to adapt, because it is a big adaptation, and finish fourth, and then he wins the championship by that much in London.
So with him actually finishing fourth,
made the difference. Yeah, he'd be out, and I think mentally he would have been so far behind coming into London, because what he did in London in the penultimate round, because it's Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, he basically was leading the race, and there was just safety car after safety car after safety car, because all carnage. We're going to talk about Jake Dennis at the weekend, by the way. And he was having to do restart after restart after restart, and he was doing that thing that you would see Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen doing in Formula 1, where they've been really dominant, which they just go every time. They just go and you build a gap. And in a spec chassis series like this, they've got own powertrains. It's quite impressive to see. But yeah, Pascal Wehrlein is the champion with Porsche Motorsport. I spent a lot of time with him in Italy and spent some time with him in London this weekend. Really interesting character. Had a lot of time for me personally. We got on really, really well. I even had a moment on the grid yesterday before the final race, just giving a little thumbs up and I think
made your day.
Yeah, it did make my day actually. Yeah, it did. And like Pascal was there. We'll put the footage up here. Actually, you'll see it. He's sitting by the Armco on the side next to his Porsche as everyone's coming off the grid. He's in his zone and just catches his eye, and he's like, he's because he's someone that I think a lot of the Formula E drivers are in sort of a pack of socialising, and I'm not sure Pascal's in that pack. To be honest, I might be wrong on that, but I feel like he's not in that pack. And it was interesting in Italy. He had so much time to explain to us his mentality of racing, everything that he does to make things custom. He has the tennis tapes he has on the steering wheel, and his story about in Formula One not working out and having to go a different way, and in junior formulas not having the funding. He's not one of these drivers that had the funding.
Yeah, he's not been blessed with an infinite amount of money.
No, and famously in Formula One, it's no secret he lost his seat because he lost his seat to people who had funding.
Yeah.
So and backing. So, but to come back there is pretty incredible. Won the first race, wins in the last round. It was a very dramatic round, which we'll get to. But yeah, Pascal Wehrlein. I just wonder if he will now be a name that it will have that slight boost from being the Formula E world champion in sort of that perception of him as a driver. And if he goes into something like WEC, he'll be going as a Formula E world champion.
I think he'll really suit for WEC.
And you never know. He's a German driver. He's in his prime. He's not an old driver by any stretch. He's in his prime. If something comes up in he's with Porsche, part of the Audi group.
Yeah.
If something comes up, or we will see.
True.
Now, speaking of world champions, this is a signed card from Jake Dennis, who I also spent a lot of time with in London. We'll put the B-roll up now. We talked about sim racing, and his message for sort of. I asked him if he felt he was an inspirational character for sort of like young British karters, being a British world champion. And it's clear that that has weighed on him. He does feel that. He did the most entertaining weekend I've ever seen in any format, where he was treating it, I think, like a go-karting race, and was those moves where you just it's sort if you have a chicane like that, he's just going to come in here and just put his car there at the second bit of chicane and say, you do what you want to do. He was doing that a lot. He picked up quite a few penalty points.
Oh, really?
But Jake Dennis, if you're watching, I appreciate you. It's very entertaining. No longer the world champion, but he's with Andretti. I've got an Andretti gilet here, and they're powered by the Porsche powertrain. So we'll see what they can do next season.
That's something I didn't know. I thought all teams had their own powertrains.
No, you got...
So Porsche provide a couple of teams.
Yes, you have...
Jag provide themselves for a couple of teams.
100%. So the powertrain suppliers, you've got Porsche. So you've got the factory Tag Heuer Porsche team of Pascal Wehrlein, and Andretti is their customer team. You have Jaguar TCS Racing is a factory team, and then Envision Racing are their customer team, who, by the way, won the team's championship last season. So the customer team won it, and he won for Andretti in the customer team last season. Then you've got Mahindra have their powertrain. They share it with App Cupra, although I think App Cupra are going to go elsewhere. App Cupra are going to go elsewhere next season because they're going to go to Lola Yamaha, and I think Yamaha are making the powertrain. So Yamaha are coming in and making a powertrain in Formula E. I mean, how exciting is that?
Very random.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you know anything about Yamaha and bikes and everything, that's going to be very, very, very interesting to see.
Hopefully they can carry the sound over from the bikes.
We'll see. We'll get on sound later, actually. ERT, Underdog Team, they do their own powertrain.
Okay.
And you also have Nissan do their powertrain. You've got the factory Nissan team, and then actually Neil McLaren are the customer team for Nissan.
Okay.
And then you have DS Penske. They do their own powertrain, Stellantis powertrain, and they have, I think, Maserati MSG are their customer team.
See, I generally thought each team had their own engine or powertrain.
Well, so Formula E started 10 years ago, all spec.
Yeah.
Completely spec. You might remember the drivers jumped out the car into another car.
Into a different car, yeah.
And then we're in 10 seasons now and 3 generations of cars, so they've started to unlock more and more and more. It's quite an important moment for me when the powertrain development became something that teams were doing, because obviously that can go down into their road cars and everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but let's talk about Dan Ticktum here. He said, Dan Ticktum, hello chat. We were live streaming in the pit lane. And so we asked Dan Ticktum to say hello chat, and he did. Really entertaining driver. He was sliding into the pits. He finished the last race, did some mad burning up the rubber. He's very candid. I get on really well with Dan. He's very candid about things. He just tells you how it is.
Yeah.
He's had some issue, I think, with torque cuts in the ERT car, which is the powertrain isn't as strong as, say, a Porsche powertrain, and you can imagine the budgets behind that.
Yeah.
What do you think about Dan Ticktum's stock? Because obviously Red Bull junior driver, going up the formulas, very, very, very highly regarded. Sam, by the way, I haven't introduced you in this one, but you are a professional karter.
Yeah.
So you've raced in the ranks with a lot of these drivers. What's the rep on Dan Ticktum back then, and what do you think? Where do you think Dan Ticktum is now?
In karting, he was always fast. we're different ages, so we weren't ever in the same age group. And then he moved over into junior formulas. So before we got up to like the higher end of the junior formulas, he had a bit of a reputation around him, kind of like he'll do what he wants to do, and everyone else got.
He's got the number 33. Dare I say, like Verstappen-esque.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say so. It seems to have all calmed down with him now, and making a career at Formula E isn't a bad option, really. He does seem fast. I did say to you earlier before we started filming, I do love his crash helmet. I actually think it's a really, really good design.
Yeah, it does look cool. It looks great on the car as well. We put it there. He's partnered with Sergio Teta, who's a Brazilian driver, and they've got a real youthful sort of side to them.
Yep.
Always
fun side.
Really fun side. We'll talk about other pairings, but they're always together, always having fun, and you'll see the conversations. There's just bouncing ideas, and they're an underdog team, and if they get into the points, that's a really good result for them.
Good.
And Dan Ticktum is always wanting to. He's never happy. I think he's a real. We'll do a piece on Dan Ticktum on the channel about his psychology, because there is obviously the reputation and there's the radio messages and everything. And I understand it a little bit more, because I think he's not interested unless he's doing the best he can. He's not interested, and that's why it's an interesting context being an ERT who are an underdog team. But I think for them it's great, because he's never satisfied. He's always pushing them. So he's like, why is this happening? Why is that happening?
Yeah.
Why can't we be in the points? I have the pace to get into the points. I have the pace to get into the duels and qualifying. So, yeah, interesting with Dan Ticktum, another British driver. And one of these things where if Dan Ticktum were to win the Formula E World Championship, that would, again, I think, reinvigorate his reputation.
I think so. I definitely think if he would win it, he's obviously got the history of Red Bull. Would it have Red Bull interest in him again? Or would he go WEC, which he would probably fit really well into WEC. He's still young, obviously. He'll fit well into WEC, but that would then bring in the whole team play.
Exactly. I think he's built to be a sprint driver. How he shares a car with others would be very interesting.
Yes.
And maybe we'll ask Dan Ticktum, because he's been so generous with his time, and I feel like I really get on well with him. Talk about a different driver here, Lucas Di Grassi, who you might remember from Formula One.
Yeah.
Had a great chat with Lucas Di Grassi about everything in Formula E. The tyres, what Formula E can do to be more exciting and more engaging, more accessible.
Yeah.
And also AI. So Lucas Grassi wants to do this thing where, I hope I'm not sharing your secret idea, Lucas, but he wants to export all of his racing data from all of his career. So that covers Formula One and Formula E and everything. He wants to put it in and get an AI to use that data to show his potential best at certain tracks. So not just using an abstract AI.
Yeah.
He wants it personalised AI, and he wants to use it. So he's a bit of a futurist, Lucas Di Grassi. But yeah, very interested to speak with him. I don't know if he's someone that's on your radar at all, but he is a Formula E World Champion, and I think
he was early Formula E World
Champion. He was an early Formula E World Champion because he was the driver that went across first from Formula One, and was the development driver and test driver in Formula E. He was doing all the test days. He told us some stories about how when they were trying to get approval in London, he was driving the car at night to show how quiet it was.
Yeah.
Someone who I don't think is, we'll see, Jayan Deruvla at Maserati MSG. I think not quite sure whether he's going to be in Formula E next season. Interestingly, when I interviewed him at Formula E in London, he was watching the Formula One on his phone. So he's obviously someone that is a young driver in I can't remember which sort of family he might be in. He's related to in Formula One, in terms of like Alpine or Red Bull, whatever. But yeah.
Can I ask a question with a crossover between Formula E and Formula One here? Do they have a silly season like Formula One does? So,
it's right now.
So is it likely Di Grassi's going to go Andretti and stuff like that? Or is it always like out with the old, in with the new?
No, it's like that. So last season, Di Grassi went from Mahindra to App Cupra.
Okay.
Sasha Fenestraz was at Nissan, but his teammate Norman Nato went to Andretti to partner Jake Dennis.
Okay.
And Oliver Rowland, who was at Mahindra, left halfway through the season, came into Nissan and actually won the final round in London at his home club. So it will be season Maserati. There's some rumours what's going at Maserati, which we'll let you know in the video if they're confirmed, but there might be some rumours there. Some of it is powertrain related. So if you've got a customer team, then the factory team might want to send a driver there and whatnot.
Okay.
So there is an absolute silly season. And who knows with Dan Ticktum, if he's very highly rated, What about a Jake Dennis, Dan Ticktum partnership? It could be very explosive. But so that's a recap of this season. Next season, they're going to go to Gen 3.5 cars. They accelerate faster than Formula 1 cars now, which is a big thing they've wanted to do for a long time. And they're basically modified versions of these Gen 3 cars. They're going to have four-wheel drive. So there's a thing in Formula E called attack mode. You might have seen where they sort of go wide.
They go around the outside and pick up like a boost type
Pick up a boost. Now, this season, I spoke to Lucas de Grassi about it. The boost in many circuits was not really a boost, if we're honest.
Yeah.
Because the tyre compound is quite hard. So they get extra power available, but they can't really deploy it.
They're just wheel spinning.
Yeah.
Okay.
But next season, because they've got motors in the front which are used to regen, they're going to turn those motors on when they get the attack mode. They're going to full drive. And that could completely change whatever line you can take in traction and make it very strategic.
It'd make it very interesting in the wet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. When you take the attack mode, you could be lapping
Yeah.
well faster. So when do you take
a massive gap?
Oh my! I haven't even thought about that. Attack mode in the wet. So your team's telling you we think it's going to rain in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't take the attack mode now. Hold on.
Use a four-wheel drive then.
But you have to take like 8 usually.
So you do have to use it.
So normally you have to take 8 minutes of attack mode in a race in 2 bursts. So you can either take like a 4 and 4 or like a 2 and 6 or a 6 and 2 or something like that. What happened in London is, because of the context of the race, Mitch Evans was leading and Pascal Verlaine was behind him. And I think Mitch Evans knew if he took attack mode, he would fall behind Pascal and Pascal might just go.
Yeah.
So he was trying to wait as long as possible. Then a safety car happened. And basically Mitch Evans, first of all, he missed attack mode. Because when you go and take attack mode, you have to arm it on your wheel. So on your wheel, you have to arm attack mode.
Okay.
And then you have to press it as you go through the gates, like within 3 seconds of going through. So you arm, press, and go through some like GPS gates or track gates. Mitch Evans actually missed those gates. And that's why he's not the Formula E World Champion. Otherwise, we'd have talked about him now.
Is that always boiled down to?
That's why, because he took attack mode, he went wide, Pascal Verlaine goes through.
Yeah.
He misses attack mode, so he doesn't get the boost, and he has to take it again.
So he goes wide twice.
He goes wide twice, and he didn't recover it. And the other thing is, because he missed it, take it again, he actually wouldn't have, I think, he would have finished the race still taking attack mode. So then he needed to drop back and try and like slow everyone up to finish on a slower time.
To use this amount.
Yeah, you can't have seconds remaining. So it was really marginal. So we actually had to drive slower, which you can imagine is so frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see on next season. I mean, very excited to continue doing stuff with Formula E. They're going to start the season in Sao Paulo in Brazil in December, which again could be a really exciting time to start a season. And yeah, we'll have to get you more involved, Sam.
I'd love to be.
Because these are proper drivers who, a lot of ex-F1 drivers and highly rated drivers. And I think it's getting more serious Formula E, especially with the four-wheel drive now. So we'll have to see if it goes from strength to strength next season. If you like this, by the way, make sure you subscribe and we'll see you next time.